Hi, performers and achievers. Welcome to Performers and Achievers Daily with me, Raj Gavurla. In today's episode, I'm talking about fields of energy. Fields of energy. These exist. Fields of energy do exist all around us, in our surroundings, in our environment. Almost everything has some kind of energy to it, has frequencies to it. There's different types of energies. Even the computer you're maybe working on or your bookcase, it has fields of energy. Now, and then the people around you, when you are with a person or more than one person, there are fields of energy. Do you sense these energies? Right? Do you sense these energies? So that's one thing to keep in mind, is to be able to sense these energies. So even when you're by yourself, do you sense the energies from your surroundings, from the table you're sitting at, from your home? These all have fields of energy from the air outside, the sun, the sky, the trees, the grass, the animals. They're all fields of energy radiating. And these fields of energy, when you sense them, then you start to become in flow with them, right? You start to become in flow with them. And when you become in flow with them, what it senses and does for you is greater than something that can be sort of rationally explained by the mind or conscious mind. And so, why is this important? Well, this is important for lots of reasons, because sometimes we are by ourselves, we are alone. However, when we have this in our mind and we take this mental approach and we sense the fields of energy around us, we sense in our environment, in our surroundings. That's very essential. And then when we do meet a person or more than one person, do we sense it there? Do we keep in mind to sense it there? And obviously, when we do meet a person or more than one person, there's also surroundings, there's also an environment, there's a culture as well, right? There's social norms, things that are appropriate. So, another example, do you ask an appropriate question, right? Based on uh, the situation. And each person has their unique situation or a different situation. And so, therefore, being able to empathize and being able to actually help that individual and help and support that individual is essential. And so, why is this important? Well, this is important for lots of reasons. First of all, it's important because what are we trying to do a lot of times? We're trying to bring energy or gain energy or feel energy, see energy, sense energy, experience energy, intensity. And then when we experience all of that, then there's effort that occurs. And effort really is not necessarily the amount of work you do, that's energy. Effort really is the way you feel while you're doing that work. Okay. And I think a lot of people don't have that kind of uh, understanding of the word effort. So, therefore, the intensity, as we sense our intensity and we increase or decrease it, that drives the right amount of energy, which does the work, which then creates the effort, the feeling of doing that work. And that is where these fields of energy start to come. And that's when you experience things like you're the zone, where it feels effortless. You see slow motion, everything slows down. Uh, Distance is not a factor, time's not a factor. And so, and then of course, you're the zone and the zone effect when you're with one person or more than one. So that's another reason why this is important. Here's the third reason why this is important, is that I can walk into almost any workplace. Let's say it's your family. Let's say it's with your friends. Let's say it's with your extended family. Let's say it's in at your business, your job, your workplace, where you work. Or let's say it's on the sports, uh, uh, for sports. When they meet beforehand, during practice, coaches, players, afterwards, etc. All of that, and I can gain a lot of inputs from that to where I can help a person or persons in that area. So let's just look at, for example, you're probably on some kind of team in your organization, different departments, right? You're professionals. And so, same thing in sports. You probably, meet with specific people more so than others. But however, since, you're still part of the larger team, the organization, etc., then you also have those fields of energy with those people. And that's essential. And so by looking at people's eye contact with each other, their facial expressions towards each other, their body language towards each other, just the way that they talk to each other, their tone of voice, and their ability to, ask appropriate questions, and their ability to really learn about each other for the benefit of being. And this is where this part comes in too. And I can sense that energy there, right? I can sense when it's greater in another area, fields of energy are greater in one place than another place. And a lot of times, this is those things are what creates what it is that they're preparing to do. So, for example, in sports, it may be that you're preparing for a match. And so during practice and while you prepare, you still have these fields of energy, just like you do at work when you're working on a project. You're preparing, and eventually you'll be delivering that project or presenting that project and receiving some input and some feedback. And therefore, make some adjustments, and you then deliver the final project. And it's something that we all work on every day. And obviously, it's through collaboration with our customers or with your customers. And the same thing with sports on a team. You're working and preparing and practicing, and then eventually you have a game or a match. And then, depending upon what level you play, you have fans watching, you have whomever it is there, and you play the match. And obviously, you would like or you want to win the match or the game. Now, of course, that's the outcome, but what creates that a lot of times is the fields of energy that are being shown, exhibited. And so, what's another reason why this is important? Well, I gave you this and how to sense this, right? It's more than something that the mind can sort of gain. Becomes fields of energy. So sometimes you can see fields of energy. You can't physically see them, but you can sense them. You see them in that sense. You feel it. And then, of course, when I say sense, then that means, all the senses are there, including the things that are beyond our mind's comprehension, ability to comprehend. And that's where we get into some other areas uh, as far as spiritual or faith, etc. And so there's those fields of energy that are occurring when you walk outside in nature and you stand still with your feet, bare feet, and you feel the ground and you see the ground and the surroundings around you. There's no people, or maybe there are people there, and you sense fields of energy. So it's very important to sense the fields of energy, because without keeping that in mind, to sense fields of energy, then you won't be able to feel or sense those rhythms, that momentum that's being created by these fields of energy, and also, the photons that are outside. And so, getting back to my point about, okay, a team's playing a match, or practicing and preparing, etc., well, then I'm going to look at a lot of things. And besides the things that I already mentioned, I'm also going to look at professional communication. Could they professionally communicate with each other? They respect and honor their profession and professionally communicate and have manners towards one another. The next thing is, after professional communication, is leadership. Leadership. Is this a collaborative type of thing? Is this, do we have a structure in place? Do we know how to uh, receive input, feedback from people, and be able to ask the appropriate questions so that we can make progress, and gain more clarity each time? We gain more clarity each time to progress, gain more clarity, progress, gain more clarity, progress, gain more clarity. So that's very important. So after professional communication leadership, then is support system. Each person needs to have a support system. And that support system sometimes is fluid, but for a lot of people, that support system is their family, their extended family, friends, then, of course, specific colleagues that they work with in their profession. And then also it may be like some other things that occur, like, something with spiritual, or it could be with their surroundings, what the culture is like there. So that's very important. And the support system includes your environment and the right culture and what that culture is like. And then after support system would be teamwork. Teamwork. Well, we should be able to empathize and be able to understand if someone's not be understanding of someone who maybe is not their usual self, and be able to be intuitive enough to be able to help and support that individual. And that's what teamwork is about. And you can see that off the playing field, and you can see that during practice or training, and then you can see that even during the match or a game. And so that's essential. And then lastly is standards of excellence. So it's not like most people are not trying to, or working towards, or keep in mind the standards of excellence that you may have. Is that uh, sometimes we need to take a look at it, evaluate, and revise it so that we are able to approach it in a more meaningful way so that you do progress. And so that's what the revise part is: evaluate and then revise. So those standards of excellence. So revise so that you can progress. And so that's very important. And that's how I help my customers, is that my expertise is what I apply to their situation, whatever it may be. And sometimes it's very specific, and sometimes it's very specific, and I help them, or I work with them for a longer period of time, and we talk about their dreams, their priorities, their clear goals, and their most important tasks. And then we talk about in the next session, and it may take more than one session to do each one of these, but usually I can do them in one session because we can progress only so much at a time. However, this is a very honest, private, personal, professional, confidential talk that we have, and they can mention or tell me or say anything that they that is relevant to their dreams, priorities, clear goals, most important tasks. And sometimes they might not be sure what it is those are, or one or more of those are, and that's okay. And then they have another session on their MVP. process. So that's their mission, vision, and principles or core values. And so your routines are your process. And so after that, then we determine or decide and choose. They get to choose, how we, with me providing my expertise, how to progress, etc. So that could be number of sessions, it could be a lot of different options. Team meetings, in person talks, online coaching, in person coaching, on court coaching, on pitch coaching, on game court, yeah, I said court coaching and training. And so that's what's essential. And so I want you to keep these in mind. Does this add more clarity, right? And then as you progress, adds more clarity, more clarity, more clarity. You progress, more clarity, more clarity. And as this occurs, then usually that's where the consistently performing occurs, progress occurs, consistently improve occurs, breakthroughs occurs, a little better occurs, innovation occurs, just through more clarity. And where did it all start, though? It started by having a sense, and keep this in your mind, sense of the bio or the sense of the fields of energy. There's all types of fields of energy around you. And this includes in your environment. This includes when you're with people, your surroundings. So that's what I have for you today. If you like my podcast, like it. For those of you who are interested in my private, personal, professional, confidential services and programs, visit my website, rajgavurla.com. Fill out the brief form, and we will contact you as soon as we can. Enjoy your day.